Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. We're talking Auburn football. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speak Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle. Easily one of my favorite games to watch, my favorite games to cover. Auburn versus Georgia. The locals call this the Deep South's oldest rivalry. This is two teams that are very interconnected. If you think about Auburn as far as even their student population, the second biggest group is folks from Georgia. Also, you look at the fact that Auburn has actually struggled with finding ways to win against Georgia over the past few years, winning in 2017. Probably should have won a couple of years before that, but it absolutely did not happen. So my initial take on this particular football game, especially from the film review that I got from Georgia versus Arkansas, Auburn versus Kentucky. Well, we're not going to go into the film review yet. Number one, we got to realize this. All eyes will be on Athens, Georgia this particular weekend. College football game day will be in Athens because this is a primetime game, 7:30, depending on where you are, will be a primetime game this particular weekend. Now, anyone, whether it's an Auburn fan or a Georgia fan that, really has the naive outlook that this will be a easy task for the Auburn Tigers because of the quarterback situation is absolutely kidding themselves. Georgia is, just like Gus Malzahn made a genuine statement when he talked about his take on Auburn football against Georgia. Georgia has one of the best rosters in all of college football. I mean, albeit the quarterback situation is in question. J.T. Barrett, the five-star recruit transfer from USC, has been medically cleared to play. But when you really look at it, the quarterback that they do have, actually played pretty good in the second half once he got a hold to the reins of the, got a hold to the reins. So you talk about, going into this season, you got Stetson Bennett out of Blackshear, Georgia. He's 5'11", 190 pounds, threw for 211 yards and 2 touchdowns. One thing maybe it's because of the number, but really, I thought that he played pretty well. He was 20 of 29 for 211 yards. He averaged about 7.3 yards per pass. He threw for 2 touchdowns, was very effective in the offense. And one thing that I was really impressed with was his ability to use his legs to extend plays and keep Arkansas's defense off balance. Once they put him in the football game, he gave Georgia a different element. I would be shocked, although the JT Daniels thing is, gaining a lot of steam, I would be shocked if he's actually the starting quarterback because I think he gives Georgia a formidable chance to win. And then you look at the aspect of some of the skill players that he has access to. You look at Zamir White, 13 carries, 71 yards, and 1 touchdown. I just thought that the overall Georgia really had a talented output in this particular football game. You talk about the wide receiver position. Kyrus Jackson with 6 receptions for 62 yards. You also talk about the 5-star recruit from the state of Alabama, George Pickens with 4 receptions for 47 yards, a very nice poster type touchdown in that particular football game. This team is still very talented and they've recruited very well. And that gives this Georgia football team an opportunity to really accentuate their talent, even against a team like Auburn that I think played particularly well. You talk about the fact that this Auburn football team usually doesn't play well in those 12 o'clock games. They find a way to win it, but they don't usually dominate. But once Auburn really started to take advantage, kind of like Georgia did, started to take advantage of turnovers, started to take advantage of opportunities in the red zone, they really blew this thing out of the water. One of my initial takes from the Georgia football team is the fact that they're picking up defensively where they left off in 2019. They don't give up a lot of points. They don't give you a lot of opportunities to score. And they only get last year they only gave up like 260 yards per game. This year against Arkansas, they only gave up about 270 yards per game for this particular game, and only gave up 10 points when their yearly average, if you think about this from a fiscal standpoint, you're playing in the SEC and you only give up 12 points per game in the SEC, and that's including the game against LSU. I think you're pretty solid on defense. Now, one thing I really was impressed with the Georgia football team is they're continuing to be very opportunistic. Richard LeCounte III had 2 interceptions. Eric Stokes had 1 interception. These guys know how to take the ball away from you. And in a game like this, when you talk about Auburn versus Georgia, takeaways are going to be huge. Also, another thing that stood out to me early in the season last year, Auburn did not do a great job of holding things down in the secondary. Georgia did an excellent job in this particular game against Arkansas in flipping field position with Kenny McIntosh, had 2 kickoff returns for 91 yards, 45.5 average. So basically what that means is Georgia starts off when they did get a kick return on the plus side of the football field. Also in kick returns, Kearis Jackson had 2 punt returns. Kearis Jackson had 2 punt returns for 34 yards. Tyreek Stevenson had 1 punt return for 23 yards. What does that mean? Georgia has the ability to flip field position, and that could be a very adverse thing for the Auburn Tigers, especially considering that Auburn still catches themselves off balance, giving up the big plays. So that's going to be something that Gus Malzahn and his staff has to really work on in order to keep themselves in a very balanced position against a very talented football team. I don't give a damn who the quarterback is. If a team like Georgia, who has Zamir White as the running back, who has such talent on the offensive line, who has such talent at the defense in their ability to create opportunities via turnovers, if you don't come in with a disciplined game plan, you have some adversities at the offensive line, you have to eliminate penalties. This is still a very good football team in Georgia. I'm going to give my prediction later on in the week. I'm still looking at film, guys. I got to look. I want to give, just like I did last week. The game was actually 29-13. I predicted 28-17. The reason why I was so close is because I thoroughly analyzed all case scenario in these particular football games. This is my initial take on Auburn versus Georgia. There will be more to come. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Auburn. I think Jalen Simpson, the SEC Freshman of the Week, did a very good job. I want to look at a little bit more at what the combinations of the offensive line will be this week. Auburn really rotated offensive linemen in and out, so we really didn't get a good feel of what the offensive line will look like coming into a big game like Georgia on the road. It's going to be a tough environment. Even with the limited crowd, it's still going to be tough. Auburn does not play well in Athens. All right, guys, go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speak Sports Auburn. I appreciate the support. I want to get some subscribers out of this particular video. Let's get the conversation going. What is your initial take on the Auburn versus Georgia, the Deep South's oldest rivalry? Like the video, comment, and subscribe. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.